bridge building is not a one-man show. The onus must be on all of us, whether we are large or small, whether we are humongous or tiny, whether we lead nations or we lead startup companies, to carry the bridge building forward. We must commit collectively and individually to continuously closing the gap between our two regions. Not just geographically, not just diplomatically, not just in spirit. We must do so commercially, practically, with systems and with institutions. And I say this because President Orama remarked in his speech, and he said so last night, there's no point to being famous but poor. There's no point to political independence and poverty. There's no point to music and dance and theater, but no food, no energy, no healthcare, no education, no infrastructure. So for far too long, we have focused on political independence, on sovereignty, on borders, on parliaments, on governance, on the judiciary, but not on business, not on wealth, not on our economies, not on the protection and the dignity of our people. So a young man, a friend of my son, who's volunteering as an usher at this conference, asked me yesterday, why am I bringing this conference to Grenada? So I will not speak in usual diplomatic political language about geopolitical tensions and fragmentation. I will speak as the layman speak. It is about money. It is about business. It is about trade. It is about investment. Because as painful as it is for us to accept, the dichotomy shown on the screen by the picture that represented our ancestors being traded from Africa to the Caribbean, and the container ship that shows goods being traded to and from Africa and the Caribbean is making the same point.
In just over 3 years, our partnership has yielded tangible historical results. With Jamaica having signed the partnership agreement a few weeks ago, 13 of the 14 independent CARICOM member states are participating in the partnership agreement amongst themselves and between them and the Afreximbank. 11 of these states have ratified the agreement, providing the bank a solid legal foundation to operate, support, and invest in their economies. This is not merely a bureaucratic milestone. It is a sovereign declaration that the CARICOM states see in Africa not just their past, but also their future. Besides, we've established a fully functional regional office in Barbados, staffed by committed professionals drawn from Africa and this region, and implementing a growing pipeline of deals. But we did not stop there. We are building the Afreximbank Africa Trade Center in Bridgetown, an almost $200 million architectural symbol of the bank's deep and unshakable commitment to the Caribbean. With Twin Towers, this center would host innovation labs, digital trade platforms, SME Incubation Center, a world-class hotel, as well as conferencing and training facilities. All designed to make the center a hub for Africa-Caribbean trade and investments, bridging the information and financing gap that currently stand in the way we do business. So in less than 3 years from now, Afreximbank flag will be hoisted high above the skies of Barbados and the Caribbean. Reminding us of our beloved Pan-African brave heroes, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Bob Marley, and the clarion call in our anthem that we must fight for the now and posterity. These notable steps are yielding significant results that touch the lives of our people in various ways. To date, our approved financing limit to the Caribbean has increased to $3 billion following the recent accession of Jamaica to the partnership agreement. This in the pipeline presently amount to over $2.5 billion across various strategic sectors. And we have approved already slightly over $700 million in just 2 years. Here in Grenada, we are co-financing a world-class tertiary hospital, estimated at the cost of about $250 million. Which we hope will convert the country into a regional hub for medical tourism. Also in Grenada, we are also financing investments by Orascom Group in the luxury tourism, directly boosting Africa-Caribbean investments while supporting improvements in tourism infrastructure in the country.
The disconnect that exists is a legacy of colonial economic model, which conditioned our economies to export raw materials to the north and import manufactured goods, tying our economic fortunes to the vagaries of the global commodity markets. As a result, trade has concentrated in a few narrow set of lines, tariff lines, unprocessed goods, undermining value addition and industrial development in our two regions. This can no longer sustain. Yes, several obstacles continue to hold us back, including limited air and maritime connectivity, very high bilateral tariffs on processed goods, divergent custom procedures and regulatory systems that inhibit a closer market integration. More importantly, we are now actively working to overcome these obstacles and to build a robust transatlantic economic corridor that links our regions more meaningfully. The value proposition we present is a $3.4 trillion United States dollar market with a combined population of 1.4 billion people as an anchor for our two regions on trade and investment. And in this regard, I hope that when our leaders, that is to say, Caribbean and African Union leaders, convene in Addis Ababa next month, that this matter of trade and investment will be at the fore of their agenda. The AfCFTA provides a continental market of scale, underpinned by rules, investment, and industrial development. This anchor is a very important launchpad for future trade and investment relations. Looking ahead, the potential for deeper cooperation is considerable. Key sectors for growth include agroprocessing, healthcare, tourism, energy, and other sectors. At its very core, Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2025 is a strategic extension of the AfCFTA and what we seek to achieve under the leadership of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union. Working together, we can move beyond outdated colonial economic models and build a more equitable and resilient global Africa and an economic bloc that will support that vision. In this uncertain world, deeper Africa-Caribbean economic cooperation is no longer an option. It is a requirement for us to be able to navigate the challenges that I set out at the onset. In this last edition, under Professor Orama's leadership, we want to surpass the $4 billion of investment that we concluded at the last event. Our partnership must be anchored in the commitment to eliminate barriers to inter-regional investment, eliminate barriers to inter-regional trade, movement of persons, in order for us to see the fruition of a truly commercially meaningful partnership. I want to end where I started, and that is the observation that our two regions must no longer not continue to rely on others to have and to forge a mutually beneficial trade and investment relationship. We must no longer rely on others to provide a platform for us Africans to enter into a dialogue about mutually advancing our benefits.
Earlier this year, as President Orama eloquently highlighted, we broke ground for almost $200 million state-of-the-art Afrexim Bank African Trade Center in the Caribbean, marking a pivotal moment for the trade relations between Africa and the CARICOM. In the 2 years since opening that branch, we have approved over $700 million. We had facilities to St. Lucia in climate adaptation, facilities to Kensington overall management for sports infrastructure that also hosted the 2024 Cricket World Cup in Barbados under our CANEX intervention. We supported the Bahamas Development Bank with financing. We supported JDC Ora Group, Silver Sands expansion in Grenada. We also acted as a joint mandated lead arranger to raise $1.6 billion for the state oil company in Suriname, Stasoli, with the participation of $500 million. Some of them personal. And the pipeline continues to deepen. And just now at lunch, I had another discussion, with one of the prime ministers and the President Orama on another hotel project in the country. In the Bahamas, we've signed $200 million infrastructure facility. I signed 2 this afternoon. Those were agreements, by the way. And that's in the Bahamas. For infrastructure road construction. In Grenada, we are co-financing a world-class tertiary hospital valued at $240 million, and I think President Orama also mentioned it. In Guyana and Suriname, we have also launched a combined $6 billion in local content facilities that have been launched to catalyze indigenous participation. Very important in the oil and gas sector. In the Bahamas again, we have also a project preparation facility approved for the development of the Afro-Caribbean Marketplace and Logistics Center on the Grand Bahama Island. In addition, we're also working to ensure that we create the institutions and skills that will ensure economic emancipation. We're also collaborating with the CARICOM Secretariat to conduct a feasibility study for the establishment of a CARICOM Exim Bank that can serve the needs of member countries and leverage trade to deliver development. Much has been said about the Caribbean payment and settlement system modeled after our Pan-African payment and settlement system to decolonize our payment systems and empower regional trade in local currencies. The CAPS, as we now call it, and PAPS, will make it possible for trade in local currencies and is estimated to save over $1 billion annually in foreign exchange conversion costs and settlement delays. To support the technological advancement of our people, we are supporting the P.J. Patterson Institute of Afro-Caribbean Advocacy at the University of West Indies to establish the Africa-Caribbean Hub dedicated to the pioneering work of generative artificial intelligence. It was interesting to hear the discussion on the panel earlier. For too long, and that's a recognition of the fact that for too long, Africa and the Caribbean have been sidelined in the global narrative of technological advancements, particularly in the realm of cutting-edge artificial intelligence. We've also made grants available, to the CARIBCOM Development Fund to launch a resilience and sustainability fund to support the region. We supported, as had been mentioned by Prime Minister Michel, the disaster recovery over post-hurricane burial. We have also supported the creation of the Africa-Caribbean Business Council. And we're also supporting it with technical assistance for startup processes through grants. And this is under the auspices of the African Business Council, as well as the Caribbean Private Sector Organization.